Hi everyone, this is Mindy and welcome back. In my video today, I'm going to do some tone-on-tone rainbow ink blending. I actually do this quite a bit. It is one of my favorite techniques. Some of the supplies I'll be using today is the Rosed Wing Butterfly die. Now this is a great size for your A2 card fronts. This beautiful butterfly die with some roses in the wings, hence the name. This is the Bold Geometrics stencil, and then I have this large Sisters Forever stamp and die set. The first thing that I'm going to start doing is ink blending my background in some rainbow colors. So these are all Simon Says stamp inks, and I'm starting out with Carnation. So this is a really nice, bright, springy kind of pink, and I'm using a flat blending brush to apply my color. So I pick up the ink, I start off of the cardstock on my glass work surface and blend that color on. Now when I'm blending my colors on, I want the darker color to be on the edge, and then I'm going to fade off into the middle so it's white kind of towards the center there. Now my second color here was Cantaloupe, which I blend into that pink, and then I'm bringing in Sunbeam, nice really bright yellow, starting in the corner. And then I'll go over, blend into the orange a little bit, and then I'm kind of off on the other side so that I have room to blend the next color into, which that next color is going to be Sprout. Now, I do clean up my work surface quite a bit in between because I don't want to pick up any of that excess ink. For instance, with Sprout, I didn't want to pick up any of that pink ink that might have been there because that wouldn't have looked very good. This is also one of the reasons why I really love working on a white glass mat because I can see where all of that ink is. White glass mats for me are just really hard to color balance. Now my next color here is Marine, which is a beautiful light powdery blue. I think it's more of kind of the true blue. I usually tend to go to like Surf or Seafoam from the Simon Says stamp collection, but I really love that Marine. And then I'm finishing it off with Orchid ink. So after my rainbow is done, I'm going to bring in my magnetic work surface that I have from Tonic. I'm going to place a little bit of repositionable tape on the back of my cardstock. That's just going to hold it in place on my work surface. And then I can bring in this Bold Geometric stencil. Now I know on the two ends it's not going to fit all the way, but I already had planned on trimming this panel down. So now all I'm going to do is go back through that rainbow of color. So I'm going to apply the pink on top of the pink. Now when I'm doing this, I'm bringing in a little bit more ink than I did the first time. I'm also kind of going heavier handed, so I'm just applying a little bit more pressure than I did the first time around. So this is where that tone on tone rainbow comes in. And you can do this with any color assortment. I just really love doing it with rainbows. The only thing I'm being really mindful of is keeping that center fairly white. It almost looks like there's a shiny spot in the middle of my card. To trim my panel down, I am going to use the Hero Arts Rectangle Infinity die, and I picked one of the frames out. I really love using these to trim my panels down because I can pick and choose what part of the card panel I want to use, and it also gives me a really nice beveled edge. Now I'm going to die cut my rose-winged butterfly. So I have some heavyweight cardstock. I think this is about 110-pound white cardstock. And I'm going to place my butterfly down, hold it in place with my Easy C tape, and then die cut out a couple of them from that heavy cardstock. So I want to layer these together to create dimension. Now I have this new tool from Simon Says Stamp that helped me kind of poke out those negative pieces of the butterfly. And then I'm taking my Connect glue that I have in a fine tip bottle. I just added dots of that glue all the way around and on the inside pieces, and then attach these together. And I'm going to set down just something heavy on top and let that sit for a few minutes. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to stamp out a sentiment off of this Sisters Forever stamp set. Now, I really love this because you can give it to your sister, maybe a sister-in-law, or just somebody that you feel is like a sister to you. So there's a lot of really great sentiments on there. And another thing I like about it is you can use this or send these cards anytime throughout the year. So I'm stamping this in Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp, stamping it twice because there's a lot of thick areas on there that I want to make sure has great coverage. and then I'm going to die cut that out with the coordinating die. I'm also going to die cut it a couple more times from that heavyweight cardstock and layer that together to create dimension as well. Now, instead of doing that, I could have used some foam squares, but I feel like I've gotten a little carried away with my foam squares and foam tape lately, so I opted to just use some cardstock for now. Now, my die cut panel here, or my background, is 4 by 5 1/4. So I trimmed out 2 more pieces of cardstock that is just a little bit smaller than that and layered those together. I'm going to add some flicks of white paint. So I added a little bit to my work surface along with some water. And then if you want really fine flicks of white or any other type of ink, add it to an acrylic block and then flick it onto your background with your paintbrush. That'll give you a really fine spray. And then if you want some bigger ones, you can just pick it up and lightly tap your paintbrush. So I'm going to go ahead and use my heat tool to dry my background. I have the Wow embossing tool. So it's got 2 settings, one for heat embossing and one that is just a low heat, which is what I used to dry my background. I'm going to create my card base right away. So that was 8.5 by 5.5 piece of cardstock that I scored at 4 1/4, folded it in half, and then reinforced that fold with my bone folder. And then I just folded up some Easy C tape to keep that closed while I attach my background to that. That way I can really make sure that it stays shut and I can keep an eye on my margins to make sure I have even margins all the way around. So I added tape runner behind my panel and then added that to the top. Excuse my hair sticking out there to get that. Wanted to make sure I got that lined up straight. Now I added some of that liquid glue once again to the back of my butterfly. Added that down in the corner and I'll just place something heavy on top of it for a minute. And then I can add some liquid glue behind my sentiment as well. And one thing I kind of forget that I even have this tool is grabbing my T-square ruler. So I lined that up to help get my sentiment nice and straight. So once I feel that I have that in the perfect position, I can place that down. I'll set something heavy on that for a minute or two, and then I can work on some embellishments. And these are just some clear dewdrops that I have. I'm once again using this new tool from Simon Says Stamp. It's got a little tacky bead on one end and then a piercing tool on the other. So I placed my clear dewdrops around my sentiment and added those with just some little dots of liquid glue. And that will finish up my card project for today. I really love how this came out. It's just super springy and such a happy card to send to my sister. So I better get on the ball and send that out to her in case she watches this video. All of my supplies will be listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. Thanks so much for spending time with me today, and I'll see you again soon.